Okay, consider this for a moment. What if I told you that the secret to spiritual awakening wasn't actually found in, silence or perfect stillness, but really profoundly, powerfully in sound, and not just any sound, right? But these divine ancient melodies that people believed could connect human beings directly with the universe itself.
Yeah.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the Samaveda. It's often called the Veda of melodies, of mantras, and spiritual rhythm. What's so remarkable, I think, isn't just that it's, some old book of chants. It's genuinely presented as the original playlist of the soul, like a profound sonic architecture for interchange. So yeah, prepare yourself because we're about to uncover some genuinely surprising facts, maybe, and some really profound insights that might just challenge your modern assumptions about spirituality, about sound, and, well, what it truly means to feel deeply connected. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Our journey today explores one of the four main Vedas from ancient India. Now, what makes the Samaveda so incredibly unique is its singular emphasis on musicality, on direct experience. It really sets it apart from texts that focus purely on, say, intellectual knowledge. We're not just looking at dusty historical documents here. We're diving into what was considered a living, breathing, vibrational tradition.
Absolutely. And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the Samaveda offers this profound counter-narrative. Especially for us today, living in a world so dominated by visual information or, text, we're so conditioned, aren't we, to consume knowledge mainly through our eyes, reading books, scrolling articles, watching videos. It's all visual input. But the Samaveda invites us to engage through a completely different path. Through the ear, through resonance, through, well, vibration itself, we'll really dig into its intricate structure, its crucial purpose in those ancient rituals, and maybe most importantly, its enduring relevance for you, our listener, right here, right now. And just a note, our insights today are really informed by this comprehensive and engaging overview in our source, the Samaveda, Ancient Melodies for Spiritual Awakening. Our mission, as always, is to extract the deepest, most potent nuggets of wisdom from that source, kind of distilling them for your immediate understanding and hopefully reflection.
Right. So, diving straight into the heart of it then, let's position the Samaveda within that larger picture, the Vedic tradition. When we talk about the Vedas of ancient India, we usually mean four foundational texts: the Rigveda, the Yajurveda, the Atharva Veda, and of course, the Samaveda. Now, while each of these is incredibly ancient and holds immense spiritual and historical weight, the Samaveda has this truly distinctive quality. It really stands out. It's explicitly described as the most musical of the four. It's not just a collection of verses. Think of it more like a meticulously structured songbook, a really precise guide to sonic experience and spiritual engagement through sound. And to really get this distinction, our source gives us this powerful analogy. If the Rig Veda is presented as being, all about knowledge and hymns, the foundation, the sacred words themselves, then the Samaveda is all about experience. It's about taking that raw knowledge, those potent words, and actually transforming them. It's about turning them into vibration, into pure feeling, and into this kind of undeniable flow. And this isn't just a minor difference. It represents a really fundamental shift in how ancient practitioners were meant to engage with sacred texts. It implies that true understanding isn't solely intellectual, it's also deeply visceral, it's an embodied knowing.
Exactly. And that core concept, which our source highlights so well, if the Rigveda is the script, the Samaveda is the performance. That really changes things.
That blew my mind when I first read it. It shifts the entire paradigm of how we might think about ancient scriptures.
It really does. It makes us rethink how we approach any sacred text, doesn't it? We often come to spiritual writings wanting to, decode the intellectual meaning, analyze the philosophy, pull out conceptual insights. But what the Samaveda suggests quite powerfully is that the full potential, the transformative power of these words isn't really unlocked just by silent reading. It's activated through embodiment, through vibrational participation. The performance isn't just an interpretation. It is a realization of the text's power. It's a call, really, to move beyond just passive understanding into active, resonant engagement. Imagine approaching any profound wisdom not just as something to grasp with your mind, but as something to, well, sing, to feel, to allow it to vibrate through your very being. That shift, from mind-centered understanding to embodied experience. That's where the Samaveda offers its most radical challenge, I think, and maybe its most profound gift to our modern ways of seeking spirit. And building on that, this emphasis on sound of the Samaveda, it's really not some isolated thing. If we broaden the scope, look at the bigger picture.
This speaks to a universal truth, something recognized across countless cultures throughout history. Pretty much every major spiritual tradition in the world uses sound. They harness it as a profound vehicle for connection, for transformation.
Right, you see it everywhere when you start looking.
Exactly. Think about the soaring, ethereal harmonies of Gregorian chants. They were meticulously designed, to elevate consciousness in those ancient cathedrals.
Mhm.
Or the rhythmic, almost trance-inducing melodies of Sufi music seeking divine union. Or the repetitive, mind-focusing power of Buddhist mantras.
Even gospel choirs, that vibrant, soul-stirring energy.
Precisely. These aren't just cultural decorations. Sound has consistently served as this powerful, undeniable bridge between the human and the divine. It seems to be an innate human impulse to express and connect through vibration. And the ancient seers, the ones who composed and meticulously preserved the Samaveda, they were profoundly aware of this. They really got it. They held this deep intuitive belief that sound, especially when it was structured and sung properly, with precise intention.
Mm.
It wasn't just artistic or expressive. It was cosmic. Cosmic in its very essence.
Cosmic. That's a strong word. What do they mean by that?
Well, they seem to understand it as a fundamental force, like a foundational building block of the universe itself. And this understanding went right down to its effects. They believed these specific sacred melodies, when delivered just right, meticulously, could purify the mind, align the body, and open portals to higher consciousness.
Wow. Open portals. So not just making you feel good, but actually shifting reality somehow.
That seems to be the implication. This wasn't abstract philosophy for them. It felt like a practical application of what they saw as universal vibrational principles. They believed everything, including our own bodies, our own consciousness, operated on specific vibrational frequencies. So when they chanted with that precise intonation and rhythm, they weren't just making noise, they were engaging in a form of, vibrational engineering, you could say, intentionally shifting their own internal frequency to resonate with specific cosmic energies. It was practical.
Which really raises an important question, doesn't it? How much of this ancient wisdom are we only just now beginning to sort of grasp through modern science?
Exactly. Because here's the truly fascinating part. Science is catching up in many ways. For millennia, these ideas might have seemed, mystical, maybe even fanciful to some. But contemporary understanding is increasingly supporting these ancient claims.
How so? Can you give some examples?
Sure. So just as the Samaveda prescribes specific chants for, say, purification and mental clarity, modern research into things like binaural beats shows how specific frequencies can actually entrain brainwaves. They can guide the brain into states of deep meditation or enhanced focus. That echoes the ancient idea of sound purifying the mind by changing mental states.
Okay, I've heard of binaural beats. Makes sense.
Or consider the vagus nerve, how it responds to things like vocal toning and chanting. This directly impacts our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest system. This offers a physiological basis for the Samaveda's claim that sound could align the body. It regulates our internal systems, reduces stress, promotes balance.
So actual physical effects from chanting or humming.
Definitely. And we all know music is a powerful modulator of our emotions, right? It can instantly change your mood, your energy, and it even has documented effects on physical health, reducing stress hormones, improving heart rate variability, things like that. So the fact that a text thousands of years old could articulate such profound insights into the subtle power of vibration, anticipating what we're only now scientifically validating, it really means that Samaveda was, in many respects, way ahead of the game.
It really makes you wonder what else we might be missing from ancient wisdom, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It prompts us to consider what other insights we might be overlooking just because we lack the modern framework to fully appreciate them yet.
All right, let's dive into the actual structure, the architecture of the Samaveda itself, because it's surprisingly unconventional and, well, frankly, quite ingenious when you look at it. You might assume, naturally, that it's a completely new collection of spiritual insights, poems, distinct from the other Vedas. But here's the truly astonishing fact right from our source. The Samaveda is made up of about 1,875 verses, and the real kicker is almost all of them actually come from the Rigveda. Especially from Mandala 9. Wait, hang on. Yes, you heard that right. It's not about brand new content.
Isn't that fascinating? It really turns your expectations upside down.
Completely. It's not about discovering entirely new hymns or different stories. Instead, the inherent magic of the Samaveda, the core of its uniqueness, lies not in adding new words, but in how it completely changes the way those hymns are arranged, pronounced, and sung. It's less about what the words are and so much more about how those words are delivered, how they're activated through sound.
It's an act of profound transformation, really, taking static text and breathing dynamic, living sound into it.
It's almost like, okay, imagine the Rigveda is the raw script for a play, right? full of potent dialogue, maybe some stage directions. Then the Samaveda comes along as the actual live performance. It imbues every single word with emotional depth, with a specific rhythm, a melody that transforms the mere text into a visceral, felt experience.
That's a great analogy. It captures it perfectly.
You could almost say the Samaveda was the original remix album of ancient India, proving that, real artistry isn't just about brand new stuff, but how you transform and activate the classics.
The original remix album. I like that. And this transformation leads us straight into the two foundational pillars of the Samaveda structure, the Archika and the Gana. So the Archika, you think of that as like a manual of verses. It's the textual compilation, the collection of those Rigvedic hymns that form the core content, the words on the page, essentially.
Okay, so that's the script part, borrowing your analogy.
Exactly. But then there's the Gana. And this is where the Samaveda truly comes alive, where it profoundly differentiates itself. The Gana is where all the intricate musical instructions live. This includes not just the basic melodies, but incredibly precise notations, pitch changes, details on microtonal shifts, specific vocal glides, they call them gamakas, and precise rhythmic cycles. It turns simple words into this profound, almost living sonic tapestry. It essentially provides the exact blueprint for how to sing the sacred, elevating mere recitation to a precise vibrational art form.
Wow, so incredibly detailed.
Extremely. And this reiterates that core idea we keep coming back to. It's not about new content, it's about a new way of engaging with the content. Its approach really highlights a deep understanding that the transmission of knowledge, especially sacred knowledge, is just as vital, maybe even more vital, than the knowledge itself.
Right, the medium is the message, in a way.
In a very profound way, yes. It's about creating an experience that goes beyond just intellectual understanding, aiming for this deep, holistic assimilation. And this brings us to the incredible discipline, the profound significance of chanting within this tradition. Our source really emphasizes this. Chanting these verses wasn't some casual performance, or just for pleasure. It was an extremely rigorous discipline.
What did that involve?
Well, priests wouldn't just pick up a hymn and start singing. They would undergo intense training for years, sometimes decades, to master the correct intonation and rhythm. And this mastery wasn't just hitting the right notes. It extended to understanding precise breath control, the subtle microtones, the exact timing required for every single syllable.
Decades. Just to learn how to sing these hymns correctly. That's incredible dedication.
It is. And it wasn't just about perfection for its own sake, or even just for aesthetic beauty, though that was likely part of it. There was a profound spiritual belief driving this rigorous training, because every note, every pause, every rise in pitch was believed to be spiritually significant.
Every single element mattered that much.
Apparently so. Imagine the level of precision, the absolute unwavering dedication needed to ensure that each subtle inflection, each delicate nuance in pitch and rhythm carried its intended spiritual weight, achieved its desired energetic effect. It tells us so much about the perceived power, the paramount importance of sound in their spiritual worldview. It suggests they didn't just see sound as a way to communicate about the divine, but as a vibrational key, a technology that could unlock specific spiritual states, align with particular divine energies, maybe even influence cosmic forces.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How does that level of dedication compare to how we often approach sacred texts today? Often it's just about the meaning of the words, the intellectual understanding.
Exactly. The vocalization, if it happens at all, is often secondary, almost an afterthought. It truly challenges us to consider this lost art, perhaps, of embodying text through sound and what profound experiences we might be missing by focusing only on the intellect.
Okay, so moving on from the structure and the training, let's talk about the practical application. What was the purpose of the Samaveda in action? It wasn't just sitting on a shelf. It held a very defined, very specific function within those ancient Vedic rituals. It wasn't simply a collection of beautiful songs to admire. It was an integral, active component, like a spiritual engine, for key ceremonies, particularly the famous Soma sacrifice.
Ah, yes, the Soma sacrifice, central to Vedic ritual.
Right. And for anyone unfamiliar, the Soma sacrifice was this really central, profoundly important ceremony. It involved meticulously prepared offerings to the gods and consumption of the sacred Soma drink. It was a complex ritual, multifaceted, designed to honor deities, seek blessings, maybe achieve profound spiritual insights.
A cornerstone of their practice.
And here's that intriguing detail again that adds this layer of ancient mystery, the nature of Soma itself. Our source mentions, which, by the way, we still don't fully understand. It was either a plant, a symbol, or maybe both.
That mystery is part of its allure, isn't it? It really underscores how ancient and perhaps how esoteric these practices were. Hints of knowledge, substances, maybe lost to time or veiled in symbols.
Definitely. But what seems absolutely clear is that the Samaveda, through its precise, powerful chants, was essential to actually manifesting the desired spiritual effects of this potent ritual. It wasn't just background music, it was the energetic heart of the ceremony. It was like the precise sound frequency needed to help open those portals, metaphorically or perhaps literally, between the human and the divine.
And within these elaborate Vedic rituals, it wasn't just one priest doing everything. There was this whole symphony of priestly roles, you could say, each playing a crucial, distinct part. Our source highlights three main types, each linked to a specific Veda. First, you had the Hotri. Their main job was reciting the Rigveda, articulating the ancient hymns, the invocations, basically speaking the divine words into existence.
Okay, the reciter. Got it.
Then there was the Advaryu. This priest was responsible for the physical actions of the ritual, meticulously following instructions from the Veda, preparing offerings, building the altar, managing the sacred fires, ensuring every physical movement was precise, imbued with intent.
The doer, the action person.
Exactly. But then, crucially, you had the Udgatri, and this priest was explicitly called the singer. Their role was unique and absolutely pivotal, they sang the Samaveda, their primary function, to elevate the ceremony, to bring the divine atmosphere. It wasn't just vocalizing hymns, it was about transforming the ritual space itself, imbuing it with a specific vibrational quality, a resonant field that was believed to make the divine presence tangible, to invite the gods to actually participate.
Wow. So the singer literally set the stage, energetically.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the core belief underlying this was incredibly profound and practical too. The belief was that singing the mantras activated them. The words themselves held power, yes, but it was the sound of those words, the precise melodic rendering, the very act of intoning them with specific pitch and rhythm that truly unleashed their inherent power, allowing them to manifest their intended effects, both in the material world and the spiritual realms.
It's such a remarkable concept when you really think about it. It's like, okay, you can read a recipe, right? You can understand all the ingredients, the steps, the measurements for baking, say, a perfect loaf of bread. You get it intellectually. But it's the actual cooking, the aroma, filling the kitchen as the yeast works, the heat from the oven, the transformation of raw stuff into something nourishing, delicious. That's what creates the experience of the meal.
Good analogy.
You don't get the satisfaction, the nourishment, the sensory delight just from reading the instructions on the page. You have to do it. The Samaveda, then, feels like that cooking, that precise act of energetic transformation, turning the static recipe of the Rigveda into a living, breathing, almost delectable reality.
Absolutely. And that insight, that analogy, is truly at the heart of the Samaveda's practical application. If we connect this back to the bigger picture, the Samaveda was truly the aroma of the Vedas, the very essence that brought the ritual to life. It wasn't just about the words as intellectual ideas, it was about the vibrational presence, the sonic energy that made the sacred manifest tangible.
So while the other Vedas provided the blueprint, the words, and the actions.
Right, the Rigveda's words, the Yajurveda's rituals. The Samaveda provided the dynamic, energetic current, the emotional and spiritual resonance, the very vibrational frequency that seemed to pull the divine into the human sphere. It's an incredibly sophisticated understanding, really, of the interplay between sound, ritual, consciousness, and maybe manifestation. It highlights his profound awareness of how subtle energies, when properly invoked, when properly directed through sound, could potentially shape reality.
Okay, so let's pull back a bit. What does the Samaveda actually teach us, beyond this fascinating history of ancient rituals? What are the big ideas, the core takeaways that still resonate powerfully today, millennia later? The first one, and maybe the most transformative, is this radical idea that sound, in the context of the Samaveda, isn't just entertainment. It's not just pleasant noise. It's considered sacred technology.
That phrase really lands, doesn't it? Sacred technology.
It's such a fundamental shift in perspective. We normally think of technology as something external, right? Something we build, manipulate, smartphones, computers, machines. But here, the Samaveda frames sound as an internal vibrational tool, something inherent to us, inherent to the universe, capable of precise transformative effects.
It completely redefines what technology can mean.
Exactly. It's not just about what a chant means intellectually. It's about how it feels when it vibrates through your body, how it shifts your internal state, how it creates a resonance that can align you with specific energies.
The emphasis isn't on intellectual understanding as the main gateway.
Right. It's not words words first,
Yeah.
it's experience first.
Mm-hmm.
And that concept really challenges many of our modern, often very cerebral approaches to knowledge and spirituality.
It suggests that a direct, embodied, felt experience, facilitated by sound, might be a more potent path to understanding, to healing, to transformation, than just thinking about things conceptually.
Yeah.
It implies that true mastery comes from learning how to wield these internal vibrational tools effectively.
Which connects directly to the next big idea, doesn't it? This concept of inner alignment through outer rhythm.
Precisely. That distinction, moving from intellectual grasp to embodied experience, is crucial. And when we embrace that, we get to this profound idea. The chants of the Samaveda weren't random melodies. They were meticulously designed with a specific, almost therapeutic purpose to create inner harmony. Our source explains that when these sacred sounds are sung or even just heard correctly, something profound happens inside you.
Like what?
Well, apparently your breath immediately changes. It deepens, becomes more regular, more rhythmic, almost without conscious effort. Your mind, which is often this whirlwind of thoughts, right? It begins to quiet down, settle into a more focused, peaceful state. And as these subtle physical and mental shifts happen, you start to feel more whole, more integrated, more centered.
So it's a holistic effect. Body, mind, spirit, all coming into alignment through the sound.
Exactly. Connecting the physical, the breath, the body, the mental, the quiet mind, and the spiritual, that feeling of wholeness. You can genuinely think of it as ancient sound therapy. A really sophisticated system, millennia ahead of its time in some ways. Way before modern psychology or neuroscience started mapping these connections.
Absolutely. Long before we started talking about the mind-body connection explicitly, the Samaveda offered this meticulously crafted system for regulating internal states through external vibrational input. And it wasn't about suppressing emotions or forcing a certain state of mind. It was more about creating a resonant field that naturally guided the individual towards balance, towards coherence, towards integration. The very act of engaging with these sounds, chanting, listening attentively, even just humming, becomes a direct pathway to centering yourself, aligning those disparate parts of yourself, experiencing a deep sense of inner coherence.
It's such a powerful reminder of how ancient wisdom often intuitively grasped these complex links, offering practical tools for well-being that are still incredibly relevant. Definitely. And that brings us to another really powerful takeaway. This deep emphasis on connection, not control.
Right. So what does this mean for us today, especially living in a world that often feels so driven by the need to control everything, manage outcomes, optimize every little aspect of life?
Well, our source highlights that unlike some scriptures that might focus heavily on, say, rigid rules, moral codes, strict dictates for how to behave, the Samaveda's primary energy seems focused on connection. It's less about imposing external order and much more about facilitating internal attunement, internal resonance.
Connection. What kinds of connection are we talking about?
Several profound kinds, actually. The text seems to point towards a sacred connection between human and divine, bridging that perceived gap between our finite selves and the infinite cosmos. Also a delicate connection between sound and silence, recognizing that the true power of sound is often highlighted by the stillness that surrounds it, that defines it.
Ah, that's interesting, the space between the notes.
Precisely. And critically, a connection between the outer world and the inner self, kind of collapsing that artificial wall we often build between our external reality and our vast internal landscape. It's not about rigid control. It's about a fluid, resonant, harmonious relationship where the outer rhythm helps you tune into your inner self, and maybe vice versa.
This really does raise an important question then. In a world so often obsessed with control, with managing everything, what can we learn from an ancient tradition that seems so focused on tuning into life rather than trying to wrestle it into submission?
It suggests a profound shift in mindset, doesn't it? A potentially liberating alternative. It's not about manipulating external circumstances to somehow force inner peace or happiness. It's more about aligning your internal state, your own vibrational frequency, with the natural rhythms and flow of existence itself.
So finding harmony with life, not forcing harmony onto life.
Exactly. It proposes that true well-being, lasting peace, genuine spiritual growth, maybe they come not from trying to dominate or bend the world to our will, but from learning to resonate with its inherent pulses, its patterns. Think about the contrast. Control versus attunement. It's significant for modern life. When we try to control everything, we often end up tense, anxious, resistant, pushing against things, trying to force outcomes, feeling exhausted.
Familiar.
Right. But when we shift our focus to tuning in, to deep listening, to harmonizing our inner rhythm with the outer, we potentially open ourselves to a greater sense of flow, effortless alignment, maybe even grace. This mindset could dramatically impact our daily lives, how we approach challenges, relate to others, navigate the general chaos of modern existence. It invites us to consider that perhaps a little less effort trying to control and a bit more effort spent listening and resonating might be the real key to a more harmonious, fulfilling, and definitely less stressful life.
Which brings us right back to the listener. You might be wondering, okay, fascinating history, interesting philosophy, but is this truly relevant now in the 21st century? And my emphatic answer, drawing directly from these profound insights of the Samaveda, is absolutely. This isn't just some dusty old manuscript locked away somewhere. It's not just a relic. The Samaveda, as our source makes so clear, is not just a book, it's a method. It's an approach to life.
A living method.
Exactly. It offers this powerful, embodied philosophy that directly challenges our modern tendencies towards overthinking everything, towards emotional detachment sometimes, towards often being disembodied, disconnected from our physical selves. It's an approach to life that fundamentally says, don't just talk, sing. It urges us to infuse our communication, our very expression, with melody, with rhythm, with the full spectrum of our voice. Think about it, even in practical terms.
It's like public speaking.
Yeah, or even just difficult conversations. The melody of your voice, the intentional pause, the empathy conveyed through cadence that can communicate understanding and de-escalate tension far more powerfully than just the bare words themselves. It's a call to elevate our interactions. It also says, don't just think, feel. An invitation to move beyond just cognitive engagement into a deeper, more visceral, more intuitive experience of life. Embracing sensation, emotion, as valid pathways to wisdom.
Which many of us struggle with.
For sure. And most profoundly, maybe, it says, don't just exist, vibrate. That's a profound statement, a reminder that we are not just physical beings stuck in place. We're bundles of energy, constantly in motion, constantly radiating something. It asks us to be mindful of that vibration, recognize its impact on ourselves and everything, everyone around us. So the message for you, our listener, is unequivocally clear. Sound matters. Your voice, how you use it, your breath, the rhythm of your life, your very energy, it all affects the world around you, and crucially, it profoundly affects your inner world.
And this leads beautifully to a core principle that resonates so deeply from the Samaveda's wisdom. It offers a practical pathway for self-discovery, for well-being. When you align with sacred sound, you align with sacred self. Now, that isn't just poetic language. It's a really profound statement about finding your center, about inner congruence. The ancient seers seemed to understand that sound, especially sacred sound, has this inherent power to cut through the noise, the external noise of the world, and the relentless internal chatter of the mind. It allows us to connect with our deepest, most authentic essence. It returns us to a fundamental, harmonious state of being.
So practically speaking then, how can someone listening right now apply this ancient wisdom in their, busy modern life?
Well, the Samaveda offers surprisingly simple yet profound, actionable advice based on its principles. Maybe the next time you're feeling off kilter, maybe overwhelmed, stressed, or just needing a moment to center yourself, try humming a tune.
Just humming.
Just humming. Don't worry about if you're a quote-unquote good singer or if anyone else is listening. Just let the sound resonate inside you. Feel its vibration in your chest, your throat, your head, or chant something. Even if it's just a simple syllable like Om, or maybe a word repeated softly, meaningfully. Let your voice rise. Not for performance, not for external validation, but for pure, unadulterated connection with your inner self.
Using your own voice as the tool.
Exactly. You can also consciously curate your own soundscapes. Use specific music to help you focus or to relax. Think about how the background sounds in your daily life, the ones you choose, impact your mood and energy. What's fascinating here is how this ancient perspective challenges many modern forms of meditation or mindfulness, which are often silent or visually driven. It suggests that active vocalization, active auditory engagement, can be an equally, maybe even more potent path to inner peace and presence for some people.
Offering a different doorway in.
Precisely. It's an invitation to explore a different, often overlooked, sensory pathway to mindfulness, offering a simple yet incredibly profound tool for modern well-being, for self-discovery, It kind of bypasses the complexities, the commercialization, sometimes found in contemporary self-help. It's about using your own inner instrument to recalibrate, to find that sacred alignment within yourself.
So to wrap it all up then, our deep dive today has shown us, I think, that the Samaveda is far more than just the world's oldest musical scripture. It's really a spiritual symphony, one that's still playing today. It's wisdom echoing across millennia. And its profound insights, they aren't locked away in ancient rituals or inaccessible texts. You don't need to understand Sanskrit or attend some complex ceremony to feel its power or to benefit from its deep understanding of sound and consciousness.
Its core message feels universal, timeless, and actually profoundly accessible when you tune into it. Which really raises one last important question, perhaps, for you, the listener, to consider. A thought to carry forward from our conversation today. What would it truly mean for you to cultivate the willingness to listen? Not just listening to the external world, the myriad sounds bombarding us daily, but also listening deeply to yourself, to your inner voice, those subtle whispers of intuition. And perhaps most importantly, what might it mean to listen to the silence between the sounds? That space where true wisdom often resides, waiting to be heard. Because sometimes wisdom doesn't arrive as a neat thought or a linear concept or some logical argument. Sometimes, in its most profound and transformative form, it comes as a song. It arrives as a feeling, a vibration, a resonant truth that bypasses the intellect entirely and settles directly into the heart, changing you from the inside out.
That's a beautiful thought to end on. It's an invitation, really, to keep exploring that deep, ancient connection between sound, your own inner self, and, well, the boundless universe. We sincerely hope this deep dive has lit a spark of curiosity within you, maybe encouraging you to listen differently, to engage more deeply with the world of sound, and perhaps, yeah, to sing your own soul song, whatever that might be. Until next time, keep exploring the sacred sound of life.